Hello to everyone and welcome to today's webinar on going support and best practices with EPM. My name is Hayden. I work for UKOUG user group. Today we are extremely lucky to have both Simon from Accenture and Vinesh from Inlumi presenting on this well voted for topic. Just briefly, I'm going to explain the layout of today's webinar. I'm going to do a brief introduction about the UKOUG user group. I'm then going to hand over to Simon for his 20-minute presentation. We will then have 5 minutes for Simon to answer any questions. We will then move on to Vinesh, the same format. So 20 minutes with Vinesh and then 5 minutes for questions. And then there's some more time at the end in case you wanted to ask both presenters some more questions. For those that don't know, we are an independent user group away from Oracle, delivering unbiased content through webinars, meetups, forums, events, and conferences. We deliver content around the latest Oracle applications and technologies. We tackle your everyday problems and introduce you to specialized experts within your fields. With over 700 member organizations, we host approximately 50 events a year. If you would like to know more about membership, please do just reach out to me via email. Just going to quickly talk about some events that we've got coming up. We have Applications Unlimited on Tuesday, the 18th of June. We will be hosting, it's currently in the process of calling for content, which means if you feel like you want to speak at the event, please do let us know and reach out. There'll be 5 different streams covering EBS, Hyperion, PeopleSoft, JDE, transitioning to cloud, and more. If you're interested in speaking or attending, please do just follow the link at the bottom of the screen. Another event we've got coming up is our annual OUG Scotland, which will soon be launched in the agenda form. So do keep an eye out for that. It will be hosted in Glasgow, and there will be 5 streams of sessions, including both Oracle applications and technologies. If you do wish to know more about what's coming this year, please do just reach out to me or head to our website and click events. Now, before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping rules. If you do have any questions, you should have a question box in the bottom right hand of your screen. If you are having trouble hearing, or if you can't see the image clearly, please do just type in there and I will try and fix the problem for you as well. Following the event, this webinar is being recorded and I will send out a post-event email which will include the recording, include contact details for both Simon and Vinesh there as well. Now, without further ado, I'm excited to hand over to Simon. Bear with me.
Hi, just launching there. Yeah, I'm still there, don't worry. Just launching everything up.
Wonderful.
Can you see that okay, Hayden?
Everything's perfect, it's crystal clear.
Excellent. So yes, today I'd like to talk a little bit about EPM Cloud and how release management works on Oracle EPM Cloud. Dealing with the challenges of platform updates and also mitigating risk as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to also turn on the webcam as well. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so a brief introduction to myself. I've been in the Hyperion and EPM Cloud world for 20 years now. I'm the EPM support manager at Accenture, and I joined back in 2014 as part of the Pure Apps acquisition, and I run our team in Winchester. My previous experience is right the way across the board, so I've been an end user, consultant, developer, administrator, the full works. In terms of the Accenture EPM support team, then we have, at the moment, about 25 clients across Hyperion and EPM Cloud. We've been working in this space for over 10 years. We're obviously attached to a consultancy as well. So we take a lot of the business from there, but also we deal with standalone support clients at the same time. And you can see some of the clients that we support. So one thing, well, the main thing that I'd like to talk to you about is the statement that Larry Ellison made back at Oracle saw in 2018. Quite a wide-ranging, bold statement. Once you're in the cloud, that's the last upgrade you'll ever do. So we've had a lot of questions on this, and I think it raised a lot of questions as well about just what that means if you do transfer to Oracle Cloud, and what impact that is. Is it really as simple as that? Is it a case that you just sit back and the platform works absolutely fine? Or other things that you still need to be involved in when it comes to upgrades and patching? So what I'll do first is I'll take a step back to where we've come from, to the Hyperion world and other on-premise products as well. So in the Hyperion world, customers own their own hardware, or occasionally it's outsourced, but customers have the responsibility for their own hardware. They're also responsible for the infrastructure, upgrades, patching, so everything around Windows, SQL, antivirus, all those kind of things at the same time. They're responsible for the Oracle and Hyperion upgrades and patches. That patching is done on an as-needed basis. So very much it's a case of Oracle releases a patch, the customer goes in, has a look at what that patch contains. Is it pertinent to their business? Sometimes you look at a patch and you go, this doesn't really impact me, the system's running perfectly stable. Other times you might say, I need that new compatibility. There's a new version of Office that I've been waiting for the compatibility on, or we've got performance issues, we've got things like that. So very much it's on a case-by-case basis that you look at, do you want to upgrade? Do you want to patch? And then you build that around your own business processes. So very rarely are you going to go through and start a patching cycle when you're coming up to year end or when you're coming up to a critical period. Some companies have moratoriums on upgrades or patching for a 2 or 3 month period around month end. If you're looking at upgrades itself, then those are normally longer term things. So these will take potentially weeks or months, especially if you've got other considerations as well. If you're upgrading hardware, if you're upgrading other components, you might use that as an opportunity to look into lots of other things to do with your implementation. But the key thing throughout all of this is that the customer has retained control. So you can decide what you want to upgrade, when you want to upgrade it, and build it totally around your business process and your business needs. Now we compare to how EPM Cloud Platform updates work and the key points and differences. As you're almost definitely aware, that this is a SaaS solution, so software as a service. So Oracle manage their own infrastructure and software. That isn't something that you get to peek behind the scenes anymore at. You don't look at services, you don't look at all of the tasks and components that sit on your service anymore. Another key difference here is that platform updates are pushed. So it's not something that you request anymore. It's something that Oracle do on a scheduled basis, that once a month they will push updates through, and we'll look at that schedule in a moment. This ensures that every customer is on the same platform version, which means that there's more consistency. It means that when you log an issue with Oracle, you're no longer saying, oh, well, I'm on patch 702. Oh, well, I'm on patch 700. And the Oracle stop response for on-premise is upgrade to the latest version, patch to the latest version. That's the version that we're supporting. So every cloud client is now on the same version, which is great. But it does mean one key thing, and this is something that a lot of our customers have asked us about. Customers can't opt out of a platform update. So those platform updates will hit once a month, and you cannot say to Oracle, no, I don't want to do things for 2 months because my year end is coming up, or we've got a key business task going on. That cannot happen anymore. And so it's a question that's been raised to us a lot in terms of how we deal with this. Lots of IT users aren't happy with this, or at least have raised concerns. So what I want to have a look at throughout this presentation is what is the risk involved, but also how you manage the perceived risk, how you go to mitigate some of those things. So looking first, we'll have a look at the EPM Cloud release schedule. Now this happens every month, as I say. The last Friday of a prior month, Oracle will release the notes for the new month. So that will come along every single month. You will then get a week to review those notes before the platform, your test environment platform, is updated on the first Friday of every month. You then get 2 weeks after that before your production environment is updated. Those updates will always occur during a customer maintenance window, which is something that you define when you first set up Oracle EPM Cloud. And that's normally late on the Friday night or early on the Saturday morning. Just to give you an idea of the kind of thing that Oracle actually released to their customers in terms of the information. So the first thing that you get is that you'll get an initial awareness email. And you can see by this, it's telling you the updates will occur to your test environments at a particular time on a particular date. And then 2 weeks later, those same updates will hit your production environment. And again, you can see straight away that isn't an option. This is what will apply. And then it also provides links so that you can look into the features that are involved there and what issues are fixed. The first thing that you'll see is you'll get a release summary. So that will go through, that will give you links through to new features, what's new, full product documentation. And then you go into your individual product. So for this one, I'm looking at planning and budgeting cloud, but there's also similar updates for FCCS and the other EPM cloud components. So the first part of this will focus on what's new for the current month. For March, it was a very sparse month, that there were very few updates, but we've had quite a few updates in prior months. So you'll get that. You'll also get a future updates component as well. So this will actually tell you what is in the pipeline, what is going to be coming in a scheduled future month, or something that is planned, so that quite often Oracle will garner feedback on the kind of things that are going on. So a couple of the key things that we've got in the future updates at the moment is that Oracle are removing the classic dimension editor, and it's moving just to a simplified interface. Now this update has already been put off 3 or 4 times because clients have gone back to Oracle and said, we're not comfortable with this at this particular time. We need more time to get used to the idea of using the simplified interface, because it is a ground shift. Similarly, another one that has appeared for a number of months now is Oracle removing the ability to create new composite forms. Now, composite forms were a big thing back in the on-premise planning, and they've been used for many years on that front. Oracle are trying to remove those and get people to use dashboards instead, because the functionality is easier to implement and easier to support, at least from an Oracle point of view. But of course, there's a lot of people who have migrated composite forms, want to make tweaks to those, and still are looking to create new ones. That has been slated, I think initially it was slated for the end of last year. The updates for January and February were saying it was coming in March. When we got the March updates, it was now saying it's coming in April. So that kind of thing will come through very soon, but it gives the opportunity for customers or implementation partners to actually go back to Oracle and say, please hold on, please delay this a bit further. Once it's actually in the release notes for the current month, then it becomes quite a bit more difficult. The third component of the release notes is the fixed issues. So this is something that we see with on-premise as well. But in on-premise, you go through and you might look at things a few weeks after the patch is released and say, okay, what does it do? Do I need this? With EPM Cloud, we know that these updates are coming within a few days on test and a couple of weeks on the production system. So it's important, again, to have a look through all of these. Now, what you'll notice at this point is that administrators, business users, system owners are getting inundated with quite a lot of information very quickly. In the past, patches may come out once every 4, 5, 6 months, depending on what product you were using. There'd be no real onus on you reviewing those release notes until you were in a time that you knew you were free to do an update. Now, that's not the case. Very much it's a clock ticking as soon as these things come through, that you need to be aware of what's going on your system the whole way through. Now, what we've done for clients in the on-premise world for quite a long time, and also what we've started doing for PBCS and FCCS clients, is actually when we get the release summary, we know the client systems, so we actually offer a service where we review those release notes. We then break it down into much simpler language, a much more concise approach. So rather than you having to step through for all the particular bugs, all the particular new issues that are coming along, or new releases that are happening, new functionality, that is now summarized. So we'll put it in an email that has maybe a couple of paragraphs in there, depending on what impact it will have to a client. And then we'll also give a more in-depth summary. So that's something that we do, but we definitely recommend that customers and end users start doing this for themselves or engage someone to do this, because it does have an impact. So now to have a look at the platform updates themselves. So just to reiterate again, customers can't opt out of these platform updates. So it's not a nice to have, it's not something that you can sign in or out of, it's something that happens. And it will happen on the first Friday of the month to your test environment, and the third Friday of the month to your production environment. This means effectively you have 2 weeks to identify if an update causes you any issues at all in test before it goes into production. Now, that's not very long, and if it does cause you an issue, you effectively are responsible for dealing with that. That you have to engage and make something happen, because otherwise, if that release has gone into test, then it's already been through Oracle QA. So Oracle aren't going to do anything to stop the release on the third Friday of the month unless they are flagged with particular issues that are effectively showstoppers. So the key things we need to look at when we're testing these new platform updates are really, what approach do we want to take? How comfortable are we with risk? How much time do the admins, the system owners, have to actually test these things? Because we know sometimes you're perfectly available, you've got a couple of days, you can do things like that. If you're in the middle of a year-end process or some kind of cycle, you're going to end up with a bunch of things that you need to consider. So these things are always things that you need to look at. So what do you want to do with this? Do you want a full UAT? Do you want a targeted regression test? Are you just going to check key functionality, or just new functionality and bug fixes? Or are you not going to test at all? These are all valid options depending on how you feel with this. But remember, it's akin to a patch on your old planning system or your old HFM system. The other things to look at, of course, are what do you want to test? Here are some ideas of the kind of things that we would suggest people test, but very much it depends on how you're using your system and what's important. So we check for connectivity, we look at integration, so data loads, EPM automate, functionality, how the forms perform, do the dashboards still work, can you pull things back through SmartView. Also have a look at performance and the look and feel, because Oracle are constantly moving the look and feel of their product as well. So it's an important thing to be aware of, that if you suddenly get into your Monday morning after the production update and you have 200 users where suddenly the product looks very different to how it did before, this is something that you will get questions about immediately if you're the system owner or the administrator. So again, the thing that we do is that we actually provide regression tests. We do regression tests on our own systems, but we also do it for some clients as well, where they've voiced a very real concern about the risk. Some of it perceived, some of it's real. So to summarize what we've got on here, we have a test summary. So this will be a check sheet at the front, and we'll go through various tasks that we've defined with the clients to determine what's important to them in terms of making sure that the system is up and running and usable. Behind that, we'll also have detailed tests, so individual lines of what the test is, what we're supposed to be doing, how you perform that test, the expected result, and whether the outcome was as we expected it. And then thirdly, for certain tests, we'll supply supporting evidence as well. The next thing is, if you find issues, what do you do about it? So the first thing, obviously, is to analyze the impact. Check, does it cause the users an issue? Is it going to be something that's a showstopper? Is it something that's a look and feel thing? Is it something that there's user education? So maybe things look different. Maybe your icons are in different places. Maybe things are named slightly different, or dashboards look a bit different. This is something that you can pass on to your users, often in advance after you've checked through your test system, just to let them know what's going to happen in the future. If there is a proper issue, then have a look to see, is there a workaround? Is it something where you need to take different menu clicks? You need to launch a form in a particular way, or you need to change things on your back end slightly. So these might be relatively minor things that you don't want to stop a whole release going through, and you don't want to log to Oracle as a P1 or a P2, but it's things that you may need to take corrective action for. And then thirdly, there is the escalate to Oracle option. So if you do see particular big problems with your system, then you raise that via the Oracle Cloud Support Portal, and you get to speak to cloud support experts on this. And then you engage with your Oracle Customer Success Manager as well. And to preempt a question, we have seen a couple of these in the past. The most recent one was tail end of last year, which was a slightly bizarre one where if users hadn't set their time zone, then it wouldn't allow them to set user parameters, which was very weird, and we wouldn't have guessed it, but it did cause our users a bunch of problems after we found it in a test system. So we escalated to Oracle, they came back with that, and we were able to issue a workaround so that actually the issue could go into prod as well. You're probably aware, if you're a cloud customer, that the cloud support portal looks a little bit different. But again, it's the same way as you would have used with Moz in the past for on-premise, that you go through, you log your ticket, you can check the process, you can escalate in the normal way. One last thing to look at in terms of the Oracle upgrades, as well as the platform, we also have associated products which don't go through the normal push process for cloud. So these are SmartView and EPM Automate. SmartView we deal with in a very similar way to what we've done for on-premise. As you're aware, it's issued on client machines, and we've had 2 in 2018. I think there were 4 releases in 2017. So you take a pragmatic approach on what's working for you, but the statement that I've put in orange for both of these has come directly from Oracle support. So again, they push you to try and be on the latest version or within one version of the previous version. For EPM Automate, this is normally installed on a customer server, and it's ad hoc releases, and up until now it has purely been, as far as we've seen, that EPM Automate is releasing new functionality in an awful lot of different months. So older versions will work, but if you want new versions to give you additional additional functionality, additional commands to do things through EPM Automate, then that is how those things work. And so again, they say try and stay on the current version, or at least one version behind, So it's something to consider, because again, these have got to be installed on servers, or in the case of SmartView, on client machines. So it's not just that all of those upgrades have gone away. So it's things to consider. And that is me done. So Hayden.
Hi, thank you very much, Simon. We do have 5 minutes now for questions. So if anyone does have any questions for Simon or about his presentation, please do just pop it in the question box and I can pass that over. As stated previously, this webinar is being recorded, so all this information will be available to you on our YouTube channel and on our library as well afterwards. I'll just wait a couple of minutes to see if any questions come through.
Otherwise, I'm more than happy if people email me through questions afterwards, and I can respond to people on a case-by-case basis if needed.
That would be brilliant. Thank you, Simon. Simon's email is on there, but I will also circulate that in the post-event email as well, so you've got that in your inbox as well. Let's just see quickly. Okay, well, thank you very, very much for that, Simon. As Simon said, if you do want to get in contact with him, his contact details are on the screen. I'm now going to pass over to Vinesh. Just to let you all know as well, Simon will be staying until the end of the presentation. So if you do think of questions to ask, you can ask him at the end after Vinesh's presentation. But without further ado, I shall hand over to you. Is everything all right, Vinesh?
Yes. Hi, Hayden. Can you see my screen?
Yep, I can see it crystal clear.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks, Simon, for your presentation. I think this ties in nicely with what I'm going to be talking about, but more on a broader basis. Just want to start by thanking everyone for joining today's webinar and making the time out of your diaries. I'd like to firstly introduce myself. I'm Vinesh Anelkat. I'm the commercial manager for Inlumi, based in the UK, and I look after the managed services and hosting operations from the UK business. In terms of previous roles, since I started my IT career in 1994, I worked primarily to start with in terms of assembling hardware and technical support for laptops and servers up in Manchester. Subsequently joined a firm in Peterborough, performing hosting and managed services for a payroll solutions provider. My Hyperion career started in 2004 as a Hyperion infrastructure consultant with Hyperion Solutions. Moved into different roles there, primarily specializing in the technical side up until Oracle's acquisition. A couple of years after, I joined Inlumi, where I'm at the moment, working again in the infrastructure space, various team lead and management roles, country manager for UK as well, until taking on the position as commercial manager beginning of this year. In terms of my hobbies, what do I like doing? I play badminton quite regularly for a local league. Got some good colleagues that play at a good level. For those of you who are into sort of the alternative therapies or sports, I do a lot of yoga and meditation. I find that helps with a lot of stress relief, particularly with all the stresses of work life at the moment. And my wife's a yoga teacher, so I'm very fortunate to get free classes of her every week. Okay, without further ado, just wanted to give you a little bit of outline in terms of the webinar for me and Inlumi today. In the EPM community, we're actually at a crossroads, particularly in terms of Hyperion on-prem and the decision to move to cloud. So I'm going to spend some time explaining the challenges, some of the key options in terms of where we're at in terms of the crossroads, and some of the support considerations or insights into what you should be thinking of in terms of supporting your environments going forward, whether that's on-prem or cloud. And I'll also make some general recommendations to help you through with your thought processes and decision making. Hopefully I can provide you with some insights based on our real world experience with hosting, managing and supporting on-prem and EPM cloud customers for several years. As Hayden said, there will be time at the end of my presentation for some questions. Franklin Brandenhorst, who's our Director of Managed Services, is also with me. He's here to answer any questions that I might not be able to field to you myself. Okay, without further ado, I'd like to start by asking the question of why cloud, and why is it that customers are actually considering cloud in the first place? Just take you through some of the key items here, and that will move us into the options which the Hyperion community now face. So cost is a big factor. Typically, there's no hardware or IT investment, very speed to delivery. You can have a cloud environment up and running very, very quickly. You've got the security aspects. Most cloud vendors will provide security controls themselves using their own stringent controls and access control methods. Reliability. Typically, cloud vendors use the latest technology, multiple servers, transparent failover, etc. And they have reliability SLAs in place to give you some reassurances. Performance, depending on what age your current hardware is, if you're an on-prem customer, typically cloud vendors invest in the latest state-of-art technology, so things like network, server hardware, storage arrays, virtualization, and so forth. So there's a good chance performance will improve with moving to the cloud. As Simon was explaining in his previous presentation, with Oracle Cloud, you'll be at the latest versions with features and functionality. Obviously, look at that with some caution. However, if you want to be on the latest and greatest in terms of product functionality, then cloud is typically the ultimate choice. Disaster recovery, so something that's always an afterthought with on-prem. Most cloud vendors provide an option for DR with up to the minute recovery in terms of recovery times using multiple data centers and replication. And lastly, I think compliance is one big aspect around ensuring your system remains compliant with current laws and industry regulations. So most cloud vendors have various certifications for data security in place. So we've all come across GDPR for personal data, but also ISO 27001 and ISAE 3402, if you've come across those, which are certifications for the management of data within a hosted environment. Okay, so what are the key challenges that you'll face if you're not already on cloud and are thinking of moving to cloud? I'd like to reiterate security again. Are your internal security and compliance teams comfortable putting your data on the cloud? So that's one thing that Inlumi often comes across is why should I put my data on the cloud? It's safer where it is. So considerations and challenges around there. Performance, if you're an on-prem, you've got a physical hardware spec'd up system at the moment that's highly performant. Will the cloud technology give you the same level or better performance? Management, what level and type of access is provided? So no doubt you may be tweaking or tinkering the back end of your system with on-prem. If you move to cloud, that will be lost to a degree, and you'll need to accept that some of the changes to the underlying infrastructure that you were previously had access to will no longer be there. Cost, again, is a big factor. Have you considered what the cost would be longer term if you decide to, for example, expand your users, products, or other cloud services such as DR? So look at it from a long-term perspective. Expertise, so no doubt the level and type of expertise may change, and what in-house skills will still be required when moving to the cloud. Key consideration or a challenge there, because you may well not have still the right amount of skills to support systems. One thing that I always say is always be careful around boundaries. Who will do what between the customer and vendor if it's Oracle going forward? So the crux of today's presentation is really the fact that we're at a crossroads. So I would say there are three main options for customers who are currently hosting on-prem, looking to move to the cloud, or looking to evolve their current cloud system as it is. So I'd like to go through these options and outline some factors and points for each, and to get your thought processes together. So first is if you're an on-prem customer, you're internally hosted and supported, so you're managing your own hardware and infrastructure. You may well be on the latest release of Hyperion or a slightly earlier release of the 11.124 stack. One good thing that Oracle have released is a blanket statement last year regarding supportability up to 2030, to give you some comfort that Oracle aren't going to go away with on-prem anytime soon. You may be aware that there's an upcoming 11.2 release, which I'll speak about a little bit later again, which is imminently due around Q3 of this year. Cloud, second option. If you move fully to the cloud, that means you're externally hosting and supporting everything with your cloud vendor. So if it's Oracle, that takes away all the IT infrastructure and all the management around that. products with Oracle, as you may have come across, or FCCS, PBCS, OAC, and other periphery cloud products. An option with cloud also is the private. So if you have a cloud vendor that has hosting capability, then you could take your on-prem version to the cloud as well in a private, secure fenced environment. So that still gives you the benefits of using your on-prem version if desired. Third option, I would say, the one that I see is most popular is hybrid. So that's a combination of having internal support or internal system, which is hosted by yourselves, as well as an externally hosted system, such as Oracle. So this could be an on-prem 11.1.2 system plus an Oracle cloud. For example, if you're HFM on-prem, the cloud could be PBCS, for example, with integration in between. You've got the other dynamic side of hybrid where you could actually have an on-prem on a private cloud as well as an external public cloud with Oracle PBCS. So you could have HFM with a cloud vendor, which is then connecting through or hosted with Oracle as well. In terms of the thought processes behind each of these, I just want to run through those quickly. So for on-prem, you need more time to think through your options. You don't have a clear cloud strategy yet, and you want to maintain control and ownership right now. So if you stay with on-prem, that's fine. You've got that control, but do remember that you're looking after your own environments. For cloud, you don't have any in-house expertise or not looking to maintain that or require it going forward, and you want to hand over your infrastructure responsibility totally. One good thing here is you want to benefit from the latest cloud products, and this means you have a clear cloud strategy, i.e. the reason why you want to move to fully cloud. With hybrid, you've kind of got the best of both worlds. You want to maintain on-prem features. So if you've got HFM, for example, on-prem, you can combine that with new cloud features, for example, PBCS. And you're not ready to take the full plunge yet, so you're in the process of defining a cloud strategy. Okay, so for each of those, what are the key considerations, particularly around ownership, downtime windows, and support requirements? So for on-prem, remember, it's full ownership. You are responsible for the entire infrastructure and management. You'll, although have control of downtime, so you can patch at leisure. You'll be able to control when the patches are in around your key reporting or with least impact to your users. However, remember, there'll be a continued infra investment. So with new product releases or version releases, you may be required to upgrade your hardware, operating systems, or database. With cloud, it's a slightly different story. The third-party ownership belongs with the cloud vendor, so Oracle if it's Oracle products, or if it's private cloud with your hosting provider. Prescribed patching, one advantage where before is gone in terms of what Simon spoke about earlier. On a monthly basis, there's a mandated patch that's supplied for Oracle Cloud, which you need to take regardless. So something that you need to be aware of. With managed patching, so with the cloud, private cloud option, you're able to have some flexibility around when that patching takes place. Finally, on the hybrid side, part ownership, because you will maintain on-prem and have some cloud. Partial control of patching, so that will be control of your on-prem patching. The great thing here is that you can actually migrate across to further cloud products when ready. Okay, so for all three of these, from a support perspective, there will be a requirement for technical and functional support, something that I would like to highlight. So from a technical support perspective, which I'll go into a little bit more detail on the next slide, is you'll need to choose whether you maintain that on-prem with the existing people, IT people, or you choose an external vendor. With cloud, most, if not all, of the technical support is done by the cloud vendor. Some exceptions, which I'll explain more in detail later, is, for example, with Oracle Cloud, you'll still need to maintain things like backups. And if you've got complex integration routines in place, that's something you need to look after from a technical perspective as well. With hybrid, it's combined. So you'll be technically looking after the environment locally with the on-prem release, but also doing some technical pieces such as backups with Oracle Cloud. For all three, there is a choice of functional support. So functional is obviously managing and maintaining your internal applications. You may decide to continue with your internal finance teams, or you may decide that you want to have an external vendor provide that functional support. I'll explain more around what those activities are in a minute. For all three, please do consider, in terms of support, outside of core business hours, you may require tailored out of hours if you've got operations in multiple geographies, in business critical times which may not suit European hours. So you may need support up to 24/7. And depending on what your business needs are, you may need to have additional technical or functional support to supplement your own teams. Diving into what I see or Inlumi is seen in terms of Hyperion support and management, what are the key activities here? So some of the highlights on the technical side, which are required for, I would say, for definitely on-prem and for the hybrid approaches, is carrying activities such as log analysis, that's managing your files on your system. You may want to copy applications from one to the other, which has a technical element. A couple of other highlights there is actively performance monitoring, optimizing and tuning the system and so forth. So these technical aspects with Oracle Hyperion, both for on-prem and for the hybrid option, are still prevalent, something you need to consider. I'll explain a little bit more about what to watch out for with the technical side in a minute. Functional, so this is your functional day-to-day operations. So typically what your finance teams or your external support provider will be doing, operational admin tasks such as user access provisioning from a security perspective, your tasks in order to complete your month and year-end processing, and any assistance with any reporting such as statutory or management reporting. Typically change requests would be handled by a functional support team as well, so updates to accounts, dimensions, members, for example, and at a more lower level, changes to formulas, potentially data integration routines, reconciliation tasks. From an end user perspective, data entry, data grids, for example, and the way that dashboards look may need to be tweaked. One important factor from a functional perspective is an impact assessment. As Simon explained earlier, do be wary of any patches and features that are introduced, whether that impacts your current implementation from a functional point of view. So from a technical support perspective, it's definitely required for on-prem, private cloud and hybrid. From a Oracle Cloud perspective, technical is taken away from you, but there are some exceptions, particularly around backups. PBCS, for example, doesn't do automated backups. You need to look after that yourself to take that offline and put some backup cycles in place. And for example, if you've got integration routines, there are technical elements you need to consider. Functional support, regardless, will be required for all options, but be aware that you may require additional training for cloud products because your on-prem release may not be the same in terms of features and functionality as cloud, and there may be additional features there. Just some general recommendations you need to think about when moving to the cloud. So starting at the top there in terms of design, be wary around making sure that you are looking at your future requirements. You may move to multiple cloud environments, for example, and moving data around. So make sure your design is solid up front with your cloud vendor. And be careful in terms of vendor logins sometimes as well. So if you're moving from one cloud platform to another, there may be some clauses within your contract in terms of exits and so forth. Features, properly understand what's actually being put into your products as well, because it may be that you don't have the same features ported to cloud from your on-prem version. And also, as Simon mentioned earlier, these are automatically pushed out, so you need to make sure you're doing your testing. From a security perspective, you'll need to ensure that you are meeting your security or IT internal standards, so ensure that your cloud vendor is providing those security controls for you. One very important aspect is a proof of concept or demo environment. As I said, you may not be ready for cloud yet. You've got the option of taking a demo system or a test platform. You can test out your solution before you actually take it to live. And lastly, do a proper cost analysis as well. You may want to opt for a pay-as-you-go cloud service. You may want to scale up and down your cloud environment. Just to give you a summary, in terms of the crossroads we're at, the key points I'd like to just reiterate. If you decide to stay on-prem, do consider version 11.2, which is going to be released subject to Oracle Safe Harbor before Q3 of this year. Good thing is you're supported until 2030. From a cloud perspective, if you are thinking moving fully to cloud, there are lots of strong customer references out there. The momentum for cloud is forever growing at the moment. Do view cloud as one solution. So you may have multiple products, but Oracle are putting technology in place. You don't need to log in and out of each cloud product, and you can seamlessly move between the cloud environments. From a hybrid perspective, you've got the choice of remaining on-prem with the existing 11.12.x or version 11.2 when that's released. So you may have HFM on-prem with PBCS on the cloud, for example, and that's a combined on-prem with EPM cloud solution essentially. Points I'd like to make as well: if you stay on-prem, it's a mature version. You've got the ability to migrate when you're ready. From a cloud perspective, there's a growing support for cloud applications, and you will benefit from the cloud model, which means that ownership is taken away and you're benefiting from the latest products and features and support from Oracle. From a hybrid, I would see this as probably where I see a lot of customers going, is to combine the best of both worlds and migrate further or fully when ready. So you may have HFM on-prem, PBCS in the cloud. If you are looking to move to FCCS from HFM, you don't need to do that straight away. You can do a proper evaluation to make sure that product provides what you need. Just one last point, really, in terms of 3 options. Always begin with EPM roadmap discussions. Do engage with a expert partner who understands each of these technologies to provide recommendations based on your business requirements. Your EPM processes are leading. So what I mean by that is think through your roadmap in terms of what you require from EPM going forward, and then fit the technology, because right now the technology is there, whether it's on-prem, cloud or hybrid. You can then fit that technology to meet your EPM process requirements going forward. And it will almost fit the technology. So you don't need to worry about the technology too much from the outset. Okay, I'd like just to give you a little bit about Inlumi and who we are. We were conceived in the year 2000. We're a full service provider for EPM and analytics services, and we provide advisory, implementation, and hosting and managed services. We're an Oracle Platinum partner as well, so we work very closely with Oracle on roadmaps, support issues, and general updates. We can provide you with advisory at whatever stage you're at in terms of your cloud decisions. We also provide technical and functional support services for on-prem, cloud, and hybrid solutions. I'd like to thank you for listening to me. I'd like to hand over to you for any questions. As I said, Franklin Brandenhorst is with me. And as per what Simon said, if you're unable to ask the questions now, please do email us and we can follow up with your questions at a later stage.
Thank you so much for delivering that, Vinesh. We really appreciate it. I'm just going to give a few minutes for people to ask questions and we can take it from there. As Vinesh said, please do get in contact with him directly, or you can reach out to me and we can get those questions answered if you want to have a more private one-to-one talk. The webinar has been recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel and on our library as well. I'm going to circulate it to all of you in the post-event email as well. Just had a question come through. Bear with. So Vinesh, if you want to look at your chat section, you'll be able to see a question that I've just put through to you.
Hayden, I'm not seeing the question for some reason. Do you mind calling that question out?
Yeah, of course I can. Can you have on-prem on a public cloud is the question.
Okay, so in terms of public cloud is typically provided by Oracle from a FCCS, PBCS or other Oracle cloud product bases. So you couldn't put your on-prem version on there because Oracle have created and defined cloud products separately. However, if you're using Amazon, as, for example, Web Services or Microsoft Azure as your cloud vendor, yes, you could put your on-prem version onto the public cloud. So with Oracle cloud products, no, but with a third party like Amazon Azure, you could take your on-prem version to that, or with a hosted vendor that provides Oracle Hyperion hosting facilities.
Fantastic. I have another question come through. How are cloud clients finding Oracle's technical support? This individual's experience is that they are not very responsive compared to what they get with Inlumi.
That's a great question. So essentially, from a support perspective, Oracle are supporting thousands of customers out there. Their support basis is around providing a generic support for their product sets. what they typically do is leave the more detailed or technical expert types of issues with partners, for example, Accenture and Inlumi, who are on this webinar now. So from a support perspective, for the generic answers, Oracle will come back to you, but if it becomes complex or something that they've not come across themselves, then you really ought to be thinking about having a partner support you in providing those answers or incidents that might come in as critical.
Fantastic, thank you. Let's just wait another. Just to add to that very quickly, Hayden.
Yeah, of course.
And Vinette. Yeah, Oracle work on very, very different SLAs to partners. So I'm guessing with Illumi and certainly with ourselves that the SLA that you get in terms of first response and everything is way, way different. So we would aim to respond to everything within the first hour. And so as a result, then Oracle's timelines are very different. I would say that their cloud support is somewhat better than their on-premise because that seems to be their focus now. And so if there are issues like, well, for instance, the timelines are different. So we know that we need to get responses back and fixes within 2 weeks for the EPM cloud platform updates. So they do tend to be quicker, whereas some on-premise things, we see circulating around for months, if not years. But I definitely echo Vinesh's thoughts that if you want a higher level of service and more responsive, then you're much better off going to a specialist provider of those services.
Thank you for adding on to that, Simon. Let's just wait. There we go. One more question's come through. What kind of automated tasks can you set up for the cloud?
So, and that depends on what the question actually is actually asking, because there are a number of automated tasks on the cloud. So to give an example, there may be an automated task to take data from on-prem if you've got a hybrid into the cloud using, for example, FDMEE, and then there could be a push for data or metadata from your on-prem system to the cloud. You could use EPM Automate if it's not FDMEE, which is the built-in functionality of cloud for the movement of data also. So if you're asking about data, the movement of metadata or data, then EPM Automate or FDMEE could be tools that you could use for automation.
Yeah. And similarly, you can automate backups and things like that as well.
They support that with the EPM Automate.
With regard to the backup, you're able to do a dump of the, or an image copy of the, or a snapshot, depending on what terminology you'd like to use, of the environment, so for example, PBCS, and you could take that locally, and then you can use a routine to schedule those backups locally, and then they're taken off site, but you're managing that yourselves, not Oracle, because Oracle by default only take one snapshot every night, which gets overwritten. So you need to be careful around making sure that you've got a history of those backups. So an automated routine, as Simon mentioned, could be backups, which are quite important.
Thank you. We'll just wait 1 more minute, see if any further questions come through. Another question's come through. Do you have any examples of large companies using PBC and FCCS?
So from an Inlumi perspective, I'll pass it on to you in a minute, Simon. There are a number of organisations that are both large and small that are using PBCS or FCCS or in the middle of implementing. Unfortunately, I'm not able to disclose names without checking to see which of those customers are happy to be provided in terms of references, but there are quite a serious growing number of organisations of a large size that are using both product sets. Simon, I don't know whether you're able to share more than that.
I will state that, yeah, there's multinationals out there using it. There are, so we're involved in an implementation on a global restaurant at the moment that you would recognise straight away. who are implementing at the moment. We support financial institutions, banks, those kind of things. So yes, people are on it. There's been a bit of a reticence in terms of the FCCS product that I think you're finding, and Vinesh might be able to confirm that the adoption rate on PBCS and the EPBCS has been more than on FCCS, because there's been a much bigger ground shift in terms of the underlying technology and the functionality. But in terms of PBCS, yeah, there's quite a lot of big clients out there, as well as some much smaller clients as well. A lot depends on the complexity of the tasks and the kind of things that you want to do on it as well.
Yeah, so just to add to Simon's comments there, we're in the process of implementing FCCS for a large media company at the moment, which is looking at quite a serious number of users and features and functionality. As Oracle claim, FCCS has parity with HFM functionality, which is growing. As Simon mentioned there, we've seen the uptake of PBCS and EPBCS more, as the product was developed earlier, and with the technology behind that, using Essbase as the engine and the functionality forever growing. We've had even our Oracle ACEs actually quite impressed with PBCS and EPBCS compared to on-premise planning. So there's definitely a good adoption rate, particularly around PBCS from what we see.
Fantastic. Thank you both for answering that. As mentioned previously, the webinar has been recorded. I will send out a link to all of you in the post-event email. I'll also include Vanessa's, Franklin's and Simon's contact details so you can get in contact with them as well. I just want to say a massive thank you to you both for presenting today. And I hope we can present on something again soon. Is there anything else that you guys would like to say?
No, just thank you to everyone for attending, and thank you to Hayden for organising it.
Yeah, and likewise, thanks for everyone making the time to listen to the webinar. And it's always good to be able to share our views and experiences around Oracle Hyperion, particularly with the current climate in terms of movement to cloud.
Fantastic. Thank you both. If you have any questions or queries or want to know about any other events we've got coming up, please do just reach out to me. Thank you all for attending.